Welcome to the FLF podcast hosted by J3VC. Today it's J2VC. Hopefully you'll be seeing James pretty soon. He might make a resurgence. We've got him locked away in a shed somewhere, so we just don't want to let him out in case someone else steals him as a business partner. I'm joined today by my other fantastic business partner, Jason. How are you today, Jason? Awesome. So today's podcast is Opportunity in the Storm, turning hard times into your biggest wins. I think I'm excited for this one, Jason. Have you got any opening comments about turning hard times into wins?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm very experienced in hard times. I've got a PhD in hard times. So, I'm looking forward to discussing this topic.
Yeah, fantastic. So I think for this one, the message that it would be good to start with is that hard times, they're not roadblocks, and little challenges, they're not roadblocks. What they are, they're just training grounds for resilience, and they teach you how to solve bigger and bigger problems. And we were just discussing prior to starting recording, basically the bigger problems you solve, the more money you get. So what do you think on that point, Jason, about people facing hard times and then possibly even starting to play the blame game instead of just getting on with it? What do you think are the downsides of starting the blame game, and what are the upsides to, instead of seeing a challenge and saying I have to do this and getting upset, saying I get to do this so then I learn how to fix it?
Yeah, I think the blame game starts by giving into emotions and feelings. And because hard times are painful, people tend towards needing some kind of emotional release. So they think that blaming and, releasing that will make them feel better. That's really what people want ultimately, is when they're going through a hard time, to feel better. But it may feel better in the very, very short term, but it's detrimental in the long term, because it puts you in the frame of being a victim rather than exercising authority and dominance over your situation and your circumstance. And so I think there's two components to it. One is hard times are very hard and can be emotionally very challenging. And there is an aspect of dealing with that. But then the second part of it is, what's the best way to respond in order to overcome and to win, in the long term? And is that going to be the case if you continually play like a victim or a blame game? And the answer to that is definitely not. So I understand why people do it, but it actually hurts you in the short, medium, and long term. It maybe feels good for a brief moment. And people stay there way too long.
And while they're in the blame game stage, I really like your explanation in regards to someone's emotions. So I think it would be obvious to someone looking from the outside in, when someone's going through something that they perceive is difficult, to say, oh, just, think logically and take these 3 steps and the problem will go away. Don't be upset. Do this and you can fix it. How do you think someone can get from seeing a problem, becoming emotional and wanting that emotional relief, to turning themselves into a problem-solving machine, and to try and, even if the emotion's there, just hold it aside? Because I'd consider it as a visual representation, as a fog in between you and the solution. You can't see it because you've got that emotional energy. You need to just push that aside, down, to get to the solution. How do you recommend people get to the stage where they can receive a problem and then have the understanding, okay, now I get to fix this, and just go at it with absolute logic?
Yeah, you have to understand that emotions are not necessarily good or bad, but they are feedback. So if you're going through a hard time and you're angry or you're frustrated or you're disappointed, that's telling you something about what your values are, what your hopes are, what your dreams are, what your goals are, what you care about. Something is happening, and your emotions are feedback into that. So being able to, exercise self-awareness, process those emotions, there's a saying, if you need to feel it to heal it. I think that's quite true. And then being able to verbalize it dissipates like the emotion. However, as that's also happening, you need to at times like be able to put your emotions to the side, or to, to act and solve the problems at hand despite how you feel. And that's something that is just necessary. You're never going to compartmentalize it completely and go, oh, okay, I'm going to deal with this emotionally, at this point, and then once I've done that, then I'm going to deal with the problem. Like there are going to be times where you just have to move forward, have to act, have to find solutions, have to solve problems while you don't feel like doing it. And I think a healthy way like forward, or a process, and I was thinking about this today, is like, I'll spend an hour a day like at the gym, and I'll be at the gym for an hour, and most of the time I don't feel like doing it, but I'm doing it in subservience to like my overall larger goals and values. And I was thinking, like, in order to be mentally strong or emotionally strong, like, I never miss a day at the gym, pretty much. Like, I'm fairly consistent. And I was thinking, like, if I was devoting 45, 60 minutes a day to my own mental and emotional health, then I would build up that level of fitness and strength mentally and emotionally. So I think, like, you've got to be able to set aside some of that time somewhere in the day to be figuring out how to grow mentally strong and emotionally healthy and strong. Like it doesn't just happen. Like you've got to devote time and energy to it. So I think building that in is going to help.
I think you nailed it there with the feedback and understanding. So if someone wants to get to the point where they're a problem-solving machine using only logic and they're able to have complete control of their emotions, I think the way to do it is to day by day do your best, and then have a bit of a reflection period after, like a Monday, what they call Monday night quarterbacking, and have a look yourself, how you felt, what actions you took, and then later on in the later time in the day, have a think and and reflect on, okay, what would have been the absolute best thing to do in that situation, logically.
Yes.
And then you can see which way you went. And then when you've got a clear head, and also because you've got the benefit of hindsight, okay, I tried this and this happened. So when you think about it, you can then say, okay, next time I'm going to do this. And you might catch yourself, oh, I got a little bit emotional, or this thing that happened. But that's how you morph into the person who makes decisions, and the bigger, and also solves problems. And the more problems you solve, the more money you get. I think that's how it's created. There's no hack. It's just that. It's every day, do your best. And then at the end of the day, think, okay, here are the problems I solved. What would have been a better solution? And then the next time it happens, do the better solution.
Yeah. Ongoing self-feedback, self-accountability. I do think as well, you've got to delineate between what's within your control and what is outside of your control. But like, as you know, I have some ongoing unresolved problems that, are very difficult to find solutions in, but ultimately they're outside of my control. Now, there are other things that I have within my control. Like, for example, like doing 10,000 steps a day. That's entirely like within my control. So it's important to put your energy towards the things that you can control, and you need to let go of what you can't control. If you get those two things confused, you'll be in a lot of anguish and agony, because you'll confuse, what it is that you're meant to focus and put your energy towards. So, Stephen Covey talks about it in the difference between your circle of influence and your circle of, your circle of influence and your circle of concern. So what you can control and what you can't control. So you put your energy and you measure and you give attention to what you can control, and you've got to let go of those things that you can't control.
Yeah, I think that's very important, because if you're doing the self-reflection and you're trying to figure out the better way to make the decisions, and it's something that is out of your control, you're just going to end up sad and frustrated without seeing any results from your work. And that
Yeah.
is exactly where you don't want to be.
Yeah. So you want to be emotionally detached to things that are outside of your control and emotionally attached to what's in your control. So that's the difference between being a proactive person and being a reactive person. A proactive person, habit one of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is someone who is focused on what they can control. And, being emotionally detached and letting go of what you can't control is definitely like important. Most people do it the other way around. Most people are so emotionally attached to things that are outside their control. So ultimately they feel like and act like a victim, and your behavior ends up being like reinforcing.
And it's important for everyone listening that if your boss or someone with a high EQ, if someone is behaving in that way and they get emotional, they can smell it instantly. And I mean instantly, like before you've gotten halfway through starting to blame someone, they know what you're talking about and they want nothing to do with you. I've experienced this recently.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just straight away. So if you, maybe a good way to identify it in the moment is if anyone starts playing the blame game, blaming anyone else, then there's a high likelihood then you're in an emotional state and you need to be able to channel that emotion and make a logical decision rather than blaming someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you spend a lot of time taking accountability and responsibility for yourself, you just don't really have a lot of time and energy to blame other people. Like, there's not that much, you don't have much allocated time and energy left to blame other people.
Yeah, because if you're running a business or trying to work on yourself as a person, you don't have time, because you realize after some self-reflection that as a person, you're either on an upward spiral or a downward spiral. There's no stagnation. You're either going up or down. And so if you don't know you're going up, you're probably going down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the unfortunate state of the world. And it's the same. There's an old saying that says, if you don't know who the patsy is at a poker table, it's you.
A good one. I haven't heard that one.
Oh, that's great. Haven't you? Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. I really like that one. So yeah, the longer explanation is if you're at a poker table and there's 5 guys there and you're all sitting around and you don't know who the patsy is, who everyone's going to take their money, you're the patsy.
Like it.
So on that same vein, talking about turning hard times into biggest wins, let's have a chat about how strategic alliances and also AKA friendships can help in these particular hard times. So I know I don't want to speak upon yourself, but there's just how important do you think having competence and loyalty? I would put loyalty first. I think a lot of people would, but a close second is competence. How important would you put loyal, competent friends, aka strategic alliances, in overcoming very challenging things in someone's life?
Yeah, I think a good the good times will. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, good times will be there, and so will bad times. But like, life is continually difficult and full of problems. So you don't really find out that much when things are going great. When it's like when you follow like football teams and like they're winning, like it's very difficult to see where the problems are and where like things aren't going well, because wins like cover over and paper over cracks like in the foundation. But when things are going wrong or things are bad, like it's a great time to actually like really examine like where everything's like really going wrong, and like where there's like areas for improvement. And I think it's the same like with people. It's like when things are going great, okay, that's great. But it's really where things are going poorly and there's difficulty and there's problems, you get to see like what people are made of and like, how things really are. So, it's the same with relationships. Like, people who are with you at the bottom are the ones you want to remember at the top. Everybody's with you at the top. They want to pop bottles. Like, when you're at the top, but like suddenly they disappear when you're struggling and when you're on the bottom. So everybody goes through like ups and downs. And I think if you zoom out on a long enough time frame, you want to figure out like who's been with you, through the hard times, and who can also like ride with you like in the good times. And I think that's, to me, like what longevity kind of looks like.
It is. And I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall into when they're riding high and when they're in the good times. They fall in the trap of rewarding a person in that moment. So I'd say, like, let's say you want to go to the club and pop bottles, if that's what you so choose to do. A lot of people make the mistake of taking the person with them that makes them feel good now, not the person that helped them get there. So like when they were in the dirt on the ground and their friend come over or whatever, let them borrow their car. Let them $500 for a little bit. Something that's little small stuff when the person was down and looked dirty and wasn't attractive as like a friend. And then when that person's wearing a suit, they're well manicured, they go to the club. A lot of the times I think that the people that help them get there, when I say that, I don't make them feel the best, because all of a sudden when they're on top, they're like a beacon. They're attracting everyone. And everyone, a lot of the time, a lot of people, all they do is sort of search and they're just trying to latch onto a taller poppy type thing. And those people are going to be more fun. They're going to make the person who's riding high feel good in the moment. But if anything goes bad, that person unwillingly is befriending and providing rewards and spending time with a person who's absolutely going to abandon them if they end up going down again.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. In the ghetto, we call it ride or die.
That's an American thing, isn't it? Ride or die?
Yeah.
In saying that,
like with you, like no matter what.
Yeah. I think that, what was that, sorry?
Your ride or die is with you, like no matter what, in the good and the bad.
I think that is incredibly valuable if the person that you're ride or die with is loyal and competent.
Yeah, that would be the, that would be the, that's the great combination to look for.
I think that's the winning one. I think we figured it out. How do you turn hard times into your biggest wins? Have loyal and competent people around you. And then when you're in it, because everyone has a different ideas of what hard times are. You go ask a property developer who's 50 years old, self-made, worth $250 million. You go to him and say, oh, I'm doing this development. Someone just gave me a bill of 30 grand. He's going to laugh, because that person's overcome that problem so many times, and that's small. So that little developer with a $30,000 problem and the developer that's got a $5 million problem, the developer that's got a $5 million problem got there because he had the smaller problem, and then probably went to his loyal and competent friends, or even better, loyal and competent mentor, asked them what to do, and then he just pushed his emotions aside and got to it and fixed the problem. Or maybe he got wrecked and went backwards. That's huge in the development world. Maybe they lost money. But I think what's important in opportunity in the storm is something I got taught when I was young. My mum had horses. So if you fall off the horse, son, you better get straight back on it. And then that's when you find out even if your friends are competent, that's how you find out which friends are loyal. When you're injured and hobbling and trying to get back up, who's there helping you? Then it's not when you're galloping down the paddock with the horse with the flowing ribbons and everything's going fantastic and swimmingly. It's who's helping you get back out of the mud and hobble back up.
Yeah, exactly.
Find those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people like in the moment, like moments and years like seem to be really long, but like, the lifetime of your career in your life is many decades. So if you zoom out and play the long game, like you have time and, there is opportunity. So it's just you learn it like over time. Yeah. Just got to zoom out and play the long game.
Yep. I think this is also the horse analogy is a fantastic segue. I found out later in life that there's actually two reasons why you have to get straight back on the horse. Whether your ribs are broken, you've got a broken wrist, you've torn something, there's blood coming out of you. My mum used to always make me get straight back on the horse for two reasons. One of the reasons is so I would never become afraid of it, because I got bucked off a lot. Because I'm sorry, my mum used to break horses in, but so I used to get bucked off a lot. So the number one reason is so I never become afraid of it. So you have to get straight back on the problem. It's the same thing when skydivers, when they have to pull their reserve chute, they're told you've got to get straight back in the plane and go up again, or it'll be worse. The second reason is that you're treating that horse or the person who's just kicked you, that they can do that and get away with it. If you don't get back on that horse and tell it with your body language that it's still work time. Hey, listen here, it's not over. That doesn't make this stop. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to ride you until we're both tired. So because you kicked me off, I'm just going to, from game theory, teach you that is not rewarded, that is punished. Because what you teach the horse after it kicks you off and then you hobble back inside with broken ribs, the horse doesn't care that you've got broken ribs. The horse just knows, if I kick this person off, I can go eat hay. So I'm just going to do that.
That's a fantastic analogy.
I just thought of it just then. And there is two reasons. I found out later in life that the second reason is that you're teaching the horse to treat you in an inappropriate way. My mum told me that later.
Yeah, well, what are your options, right? Your option is you can stay down and out, or you can get back on the horse. And in your own best interest, it just works better to get back on the horse. What benefit is there from staying out of the game and off the horse and then reliving that event over and over and over? Like, there is no benefit to that. I think a lot of it too is like, if you as an individual practice stepping outside of yourself, practicing self-awareness, and then and asking yourself, what would be the best course of action to take for this person, for me, and then doing that thing, taking that action, you'll find that a lot of times, like, your emotional response isn't the best thing for you. Your considered emotionally detached action is going to be what's best for you. In this case, like getting back on the horse.
I think as well, having this knowledge, you have to have it ingrained in you and you have to be prepared for it. Because with the analogy of falling off a horse, as of someone that has broken my ribs several times, that sucks. And it has to be almost like a muscle memory that when you fall down, you're winded, there's tears running down your face. You're not crying, but it's just because, dudes don't cry. It's just because it's so painful. You have to know that, like, you're looking up at this thing, you have to know, I have to get back on that right now. You have to know, because in that moment is emotion, there's adrenaline. And I think this comes from what we're speaking about before of working on yourself. So then the next time something does go bad, you know what you have to do. You're not just listening to the emotion and the adrenaline and your brain's telling you, just roll under the fence away from the horse and just lay there for a bit and call an ambulance. No, you get up and get back on it. You have to do it straight away.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's great advice. Yeah. And you'll get kicked off the horse and like kicked in the face by life the longer you live. Like, if you want to win and you want to overcome adversity, like in life, getting back on the horse is absolutely critical. Even while you're feeling the pain,
Yeah. And that's where I think the self-reflection comes in, because it's just that much more difficult to think logically into. No one's going to fall off the horse and not know they're supposed to get back on if they've never thought about it. They've never been told. You get, say just a 15-year-old child, and you just don't tell them anything. You put them on the horse and they start riding. The horse kicks off, the kid gets hurt. A child's just going to run. They don't know what to do. But absolutely the best thing for the horse and for the person is to get back on. So that's where I think the self-reflection comes in, and that's going to steal in your mind what to do when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great reminder and a great point. Yeah.
To not ride horses.
Just get back on. Like, Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a great.
there's no other way to do it. I think it's the same with someone who has a bad experience with a partner, with a boyfriend, girlfriend, lover. The solution isn't to willow in pity. The solution is to get back on the horse.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, do you have any closing points you'd like to add, Jason?
No, I think overcoming like adversity and building resilience and having the right perspective like are so important. Like you never get away from needing to use the wisdom that you gain or the skill that you develop. It's not like necessarily an inbuilt trait to deal with adversity. It's something that you can learn and grow in. And then, the older you get, like the more you can practice it. And you, as you said, you solve like more and more difficult problems. And that becomes like, you just become more resilient, more robust, more anti-fragile. You become better equipped to deal with what life throws at you, in whatever form it is. And you just have the right mentality as part of the process to like maturing and growing and developing like as a man, as a human being, and being able to put that into practice consistently is just what's going to make you stronger and better. And so, yeah, I think having a framework for that is like really important, and being able to practice that and exercise that. Everybody's got problems that they're dealing with. So everyone's got issues that they can like, take as an opportunity to practice and implement this like in your daily life. You're either like, you're either growing or you're just stagnating. There's no other option. So I would pick the path of like growth. If you can choose that path, that's the best way.
Fantastic point. Thank you, Jason. And thank you for our viewers for watching, listening to this. This has been the FLF podcast by J3VC. If you like what you heard or saw, hit the subscribe button, follow us. We've got more content around. Thanks very much. See you guys next time.
See you.